And then I turned my attention to southernmost Patagonia in Argentina, down near Tierra del Fuego here. I worked in this area here between these two glacial lakes. This area is about the size of the state of Connecticut, and in that area there are 3 houses. That's how remote it is. And spent a long time down there. My first field season down there, I found this bone. That's really the most robust femur thigh bone that had ever been seen. I was pretty excited about that, but it turned out that bone was isolated. And we were hoping there'd be more of a skeleton. There wasn't, but that was enough of a result for me to get some decent funding from the National Science Foundation and to get down to this site the next year with a bigger crew and for a longer period. And then, and that first field season we found another site with some very big bones that had been preserved with iron, so they were also super heavy bones. And this white here, that's plaster. So when we take a bone out of the desert, we jacket it in burlap and plaster to protect it during transport. I was in a site here where you can't get a vehicle. So we would drive 4 hours on a dirt road and then raft across a glacial stream. When we would jacket these bones at the top of the mountain, I'd put them on a sled, belay them around my hip down to this gully, hired a couple of gauchos and their teams of horses. We'd pad out these sleds with prairie grass and then tow the bones out from the desert with horses, as you see here. That was a tough field season. At the end of that field season, I had to find an overland route into this site, or I knew I wasn't going to have a project. And the locals were actually telling me it wasn't possible to drive to this site. So I took a day, I just went off by myself, and I found an overland route. It was not a good route. There were a couple of points where you kind of put your wheels over the edge of a ridge, and you can't really see what's coming. And you keep going, and you lock the brakes, and you gotta steer straight because the truck is bouncing down the hill like this. But I was able to show that we could have an overland route to the site. The next year, came back, got a guy with this old broken down front end loader to kind of scrape a 15-kilometer long road for us. And then we had a project, once we could get in there with our trucks. So the next field season, the very first morning, come out of my tent, discover another